I used to work for a hospital system, 50,000 employees, and 4 times a year, they would host a leadership meeting for the top 1,000 people in the organization. It was held off-site, 3 to 4 hours, strategy updates, major initiatives, and the room was always set up with round tables of 8 to 10 people that you didn't know, right? So it was forced team building activities, mandatory networking breaks. And as an introvert, my skin crawled just hearing about it. I went to the first one and I absolutely hated it. Then for the next two, I found excuses. I said I was traveling, I took vacation days, I did whatever I had to do to avoid it. Then they noticed and people weren't showing up. So they made it mandatory networking. So I tried a new strategy. I showed up for the presentations and then I bolted. As soon as the last slide hit the screen, I grabbed my bag and I walked out. My boss noticed that I did that. My colleagues in HR started to notice. Then the executive team noticed. And one day my boss pulled me aside and she said something. Because here's the thing, I wasn't just an introvert. I was one of the few Black people in that room. And I was a woman. And I was senior HR leadership. So when I didn't show up or when I left early, it wasn't just noticed, it was tracked. It was reported and it was held against me. That's the triple tax. And if you're a Black introverted woman trying to lead in corporate America, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The triple tax is what happens when you're leading at the intersection of three identities that corporate America was not designed for. So let me break it down. You already know that you have to work twice as hard to get half the credit. You represent your entire race in every meeting. One mistake doesn't just reflect on you, it reflects on all of us. You code switch. You manage your tone. You manage your facial expressions. You're constantly aware of how you're being perceived because you know the stereotypes. You're angry, you're aggressive, you're difficult, you're not a culture fit. You're hyper visible and invisible at the same time. Everyone sees you, yet no one sees you. That's the Black tax. Now, the woman tax, something a little different. You have to be competent, but not threatening, warm, but not weak, assertive, but not aggressive, confident, but not arrogant. You do all the emotional labor. You smooth over conflict. You remember birthdays. You take notes in meetings, even though you're the vice president. You're told to lean in and speak up, but when you do, you're too much. And if you don't, you're not leadership material. Feels like you can't win. That's the woman tax. Then there's the introvert tax. You're told leadership looks like this: commanding the room, dominating conversations, networking effortlessly, being visible. But that's not you. You lead by listening, by thinking deeply, by building trust in one-on-one conversations, by being strategic, not loud. But corporate doesn't recognize that as leadership. So you're told you need to speak up more. You need to be more visible. You need to put yourself out there. Translation, you need to be someone you're not. That's the introvert tax. Now, imagine paying all three of these taxes at the same time. That's not addition, that's multiplication. Because when you're Black and a woman and an introvert, the rules completely change. You can't just speak up more because if you do, you're the angry Black woman. You can't just be visible because visibility as a Black woman means hyper scrutiny. You can't just network because forced social interaction as an introvert is already exhausting. But doing it while code switching and managing perception, it's completely depleting. You're stuck in a triple bind. No matter what you do, you feel like you're going to lose. That's the triple tax. Now let's go back to my hospital system. I was transparent with my boss. I told her, I'm an introvert. I don't excel in forced networking situations. It's not that I don't want to be there, it's just that it drains me and it's not how I build relationships. She heard me. She definitely heard me, but the system didn't care because here's what the system saw. They saw a Black woman in senior leadership who wasn't visible enough, a woman who wasn't doing the relational team building work expected of women, an introvert who wasn't performing the extroverted leadership that they valued. So my absence was noticed. My early exits, they were tracked. And eventually, I had to come up with a strategy, not to thrive, but just to survive without being penalized. And here's the part that still makes me angry. I had great working relationships with my colleagues. One on one, I was excellent. I built trust. I solved problems. I led strategic initiatives. I was really good at my job. But because I didn't show up to the holiday party at my boss's house, because I didn't stay for the forced networking breaks, I was seen as not engaged, not a team player, not executive leadership material. The system was blatantly set up to force me, as a Black, introverted female leader, to go against my natural tendencies. And if I didn't, I paid the price for it. Here's the myth that corporate keeps telling us. If you're not loud, you can't be a leader. If you're not visible, you can't be valuable. If you're not networking constantly, you're not building influence. But here's the reality. That is all extroverted leadership. And extroverted leadership is not the only kind of leadership that is effective. Quiet, thoughtful, strategic leadership is also leadership. Deep listening is leadership. Building trust in one-on-one relationships is leadership. Thinking before you speak is leadership. Leading by example is leadership. But when that leadership comes in a Black woman's body, corporate cannot see it because they're not looking for your kind of leadership. They're looking for their kind of leadership. And this is where the triple tax sabotages you across the 3 levels of leadership. At level 1, when you're leading yourself, you start to doubt yourself. You think, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I'm not leadership material. Maybe I need to change who I am. You start to internalize the system's failures as your own. At level 2, when you're leading your team, you overfunction to compensate. You work twice as hard. You stay late. You take on extra projects. You say yes to everything that is offered to you because you're trying to prove you belong. Sound familiar? That's the work addiction that we talked about in video 2. Now, at level 3, when you're leading across the organization, you don't position yourself for executive roles. You don't build coalitions. You don't pursue visibility opportunities. Not because you're not capable, but because you've learned that the system punishes you for showing up as yourself. So what do? You stay small, you stay safe, and you stay stuck. That is how the triple tax keeps Black introverted women like you and like me out of the C-suite. So what do? You don't fix yourself. You don't force extroversion. You don't code switch until you disappear. You start to lead strategically on your own terms. And here's how you can do that. Name the tax. Stop internalizing it as your failure because it's not you. It is the system that we're operating in. Say it out loud. I am paying the triple tax, and it is expensive. The second thing that you can do is redefine leadership on your own terms. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. Lead from your strengths, your deep thinking, your strategic foresight, your listening skills, your one-on-one influence, your thoughtful decision-making. Those are all types of leadership. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The third thing you can do is build visibility, but build it strategically. You don't have to go to every networking event. You don't have to force small talk, but you do need to be seen, but on your own terms. You can write and be seen. You can mentor and be seen. You can build one-on-one relationships with key stakeholders and be seen. Or maybe you want to lead a high impact project. Let your work be visible, not your performance. The fourth thing you can do is find your people. You need allies who can see your quiet brilliance, people who value your deep thinking over loud talking. They exist. They exist in your company. They exist in your industry. So find them and build with them. The fifth thing that you can do is protect your energy. The triple tax is mad expensive. You're doing 3 times the work just to exist in your workspace. Strategic rest, it is not optional. It is survival. Okay, so let's go back to the hospital system one more time. I eventually came up with a strategy. I showed up, I stayed for the presentations, I built one-on-one relationships in the way that worked for me. One-on-one, deep, and strategic. And I stopped apologizing for being an introvert. Did the system change? No. Did I change? No. But I found a way to work the system to my advantage. So here's what I need you to hear. You are not too quiet. You are not too much. You are not broken. You are leading at the intersection of 3 identities, and you're doing it in a system that wasn't designed for you. But you're doing it your way. That is not a deficit. That's power. Drop a heart in the comments if you feel the triple tax, if you've ever experienced it. And if you're ready to stop paying it, or at least pay it on your own terms, then subscribe to my channel, because we're just getting started. This is level 1 of leadership, which is leading yourself. And you can't lead anyone else until you stop letting the system tell you who you are. I'll see you in the next video.